Back with Bryan Hayes. Hayes, let's look ahead now to the NHL season. Which team in the Eastern Conference is the biggest threat to the Florida Panthers?
I think it's a lot like the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL, Scully, where I'd argue it's themselves. I think it's the Florida Panthers themselves. Do they run into injuries? Do they get complacent? But pushing Florida aside and talking about who's going to challenge them, I'll go with the team they met in the Eastern Final, and that would be the New York Rangers. The Rangers have a ton of talent and a ton of depth, and they have a good fusion up front of veterans like Zibanejad and Panarin and younger players. Filipino's a really good player who's hurt a lot last year. They have a great top four defense, and on any given night, Igor Shesterkin can be the best goaltender in the world. I'm also a big fan of Peter Laviolette as a head coach. His cup experience, he's won one, he's been to multiple cups. I think Florida is still the clear-cut favorite. Very difficult to go to 3 straight cup finals, albeit Tampa just did it a couple of years ago. But if I had to pick one team to chase down the champs, as of today, it would be the New York Rangers in the East.
And they made a really good run last year, too. Now, Hazy, we saw a ton of moves on free agent frenzy, but which team failed to get better?
I'm going to say the Pittsburgh Penguins, right? They haven't been good enough the last couple of years. They didn't make the playoffs. They were old and slow. The one move they made this year, the preeminent move anyway, was acquiring Kevin Hayes. He's not young. He's not fast, right? They're committed. We haven't seen Sid sign yet. I'm assuming that extension will come at some point, but he still has a year left. Sidney Crosby is still one of the 10 or 12 best players in the league right now. He's coming back, and it's not gotten better. They're coming back with the same goaltending tandem. Their defense doesn't have much depth. They brought in Carlson last year. They signed a bunch of guys last year, and it didn't work out. And effectively, it feels like, to me, they're just going to let this ride out. They're just hoping Sid can find a way to drag them to the playoffs. Malkin stays healthy and drags them to the playoffs. Erik Karlsson finds another miraculous 100-point season like he had a couple of years ago, and the goalies stay healthy and they stand on their head. They didn't even change the head coach, and I'm not surprised by that. Mike Sullivan's won cups there. He's got a lot of power there. He's got a long-term contract, but it feels stale. It didn't get fresh over the offseason. Sid's still there. Sid's still rocking. I don't think they're a playoff team. I'm going to say it's Pittsburgh.
Okay, as for the Oilers, they came so close to snapping Canada's Stanley Cup drought. Now, next season, which Canadian team has the best chance to do it, do you think?
You just named them. It's got to be Edmonton because I think they're even better on paper today than they were in Game 7 of the Cup final, right? Arvidsson coming up. I'm a fan. I like the fact that they brought in Jeff Skinner on the cheap, right? They brought back players that they needed to bring back as well. Adam Henrique is back. Connor Brown, after a full offseason of recovery, of training going into next year, if he plays anything like he did in the Cup final, that's a completely different player and a big boost to their lineup. So I'm a big fan of where Edmonton's at. I think Stuart Skinner obviously got a ton of experience last year, proved he can be a number one in this league. And Chris Knoblauch, he had to jump on a moving train, and he did an incredible job. But now he has a full offseason. He has a full training camp, and they're going into next year locked and loaded. I love where the Edmonton Oilers are at. I think they're chomping at the bit. I think McDavid will be great. Draisaitl will be great. I'm not saying anything you don't know. I think there's a few very good Canadian teams. Toronto's really good. Vancouver's really good. I think Winnipeg's still good. But it's clear at this point, Edmonton's the best team in the country. They have the best chance at breaking that drought. And I think they're chasing Florida again this year. I'm all over the Oilers having a big, big season.
And you know how hungry they are, especially how it ended last season. Bryan, thanks for this.